Hello, everyone. Kathy Bacon here with What's Your Story Radio. So nice to be back after the new year. It took a little while to get started, but here I am, and it's a passion of mine to hear your story. It's a passion of mine to understand why we end up where we're at, how we get there, what the journey is. So that's why I do What's Your Story. It means so much to me to connect others to people that you need to meet, you need to find out about, things that maybe you need in your life, you can find by getting to know my guests. It's just a variety of how this works with others. So it's my pleasure, it's my joy to do it. And I'm doing it out of Seattle, Washington now. You know, I was in Thailand before that, and I was in Denver before that. So I've been doing this a while. I enjoy it, and really look at the schedule coming up on my website, www.kathybacon.com. I put up who's going to be on. I share information about everyone. You will see this video on there. If you don't see it live tonight, you will see it there. You'll see it on YouTube. Please, like my YouTube page. It's Kathy Bacon, What's Your Story? You'll get to see all these great stories and listen to them because I can tell you this, that there are amazing, wonderful people in the world, and they're willing to share how they got from point A to point B, the good, the bad, the ugly. Every story is unique to them. Tonight, I have a woman that I'm very, very excited to interview. Her name is Linda Kozloff-Turner. And Linda is from Denver, Colorado, and we should have met, but we never did. We actually were sort of going in the same circles, but we never actually met until just face-to-face tonight, but on the phone just a few weeks ago. And I'm very excited about her story because it's a story of never, ever, I mean never giving up. She is a product designer, has developed furniture, life products, and timekeeping software that was endorsed by Dr. Christiane Northrup for that time of the month, which we can certainly ask her about. She's a sharp businesswoman who has supported a family on her jewelry designs and studio on Pearl Street, which is nearly impossible to do. She's also a graduate gemologist student with the GIA program, making diamonds and colored stones as an expert. She has multiple professional grant recipient, including the Rocky Mountain Women's Institute Associate, project grant recipient for Colorado Photographic Arts Center, major arts grant recipient for the city and county of Boulder, Ernst Haas grant for Anderson Ranch, Dean's grant for work and graduate studies at CU Boulder. I'm running out of breath. Major grant recipient for Gemology Institute of America in Carlsbad, New York. Linda has written a book entitled Guided by Angels and an overview of her adoption search and ultimately finding her entire birth family before the internet in 1988. So, imagine her surprise when women all over the world said yes. They all wanted to be interviewed. She teamed up with a photographer, Hardy Clayhold, and in this equation, she is neither the designer nor the photographer, but rather the author. She felt this book will be her hallmark on the world of jewelry making. In the past year, she has interviewed 20 women with 20 more lined up for Couture in Las Vegas. And it turns out that she's not the only woman that has gone through or going through what she's gone through. And I assure you, neither is anyone else. You can track her progress and see who she's interviewed by following her on Instagram, Women of Jewelry. She looks forward to the museum exhibit she's planning of all 100 women's works, stories, and the sage advice each one of them has to offer. So this isn't all about jewelry making. It's about being a woman in a profession and sharing your journey. And that's what this story is about. So she's laughed, she's cried, she's spoken to some of the most proficient jewelry artists of her time, and everyone has something to offer. If you have an artist you think she should interview, please let her know. She will tell us how we can do that. And the moral of the story, which I absolutely love, as Jessica Kagan Cushman states, never, ever, ever give up. And that is what I learned about having a business today. So I really am so excited for you all to meet Linda Kozloff-Turner. Hi,
Hey
Linda.
everyone. We made it.
We did. We made it. And not only that, but gosh, you have so much credited behind your name. I mean, you've done so much. So tell us how this all came about, that you got into this business and where it's led you.
Well, I've always had a fascination for jewelry. And even when I was very small, 3 years old, I'd be examining pieces of jewelry and thinking, this looks great, or "Oh, I don't really like that so much." I also was fascinated by the energy that jewelry carried. And that was, people would say, "Oh, such and such aunt wore that piece of jewelry," and you'd go, "Oh, I didn't really like her that much." So the piece of jewelry wasn't very good. And so I always, there was a lot of energy, there was a lot of feelings associated with jewelry. And I started examining it very, very young. When I was about 16 years old, I was working in a beautiful art store in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Wow.
And I happened to mention, somebody said to me, "You're really good at this." And I said, "I'd like to learn more." And a woman walked up to me and she said, "You know what? I need an apprentice." And so my first lesson in all of this was state your case.
Yeah.
Make it known what you need. In this particular instance, I was naive, but I said what I needed, and she walked over to me and said, "I'll trade you jewelry making lessons if you'll help me." And she ended up being a cloisonné artist for the Boston Museum of Fine Art.
Wow.
She was unbelievable. My first apprenticeship was with literally a rock star, and I learned so much from her. And she taught me a few techniques, and
Right.
then I came out to Boulder in '75 and opened the paper. And certainly the first job there was jewelry manufacturer help needed.
Right.
And I went down to Pearl Street in 1975, and I was able to get a job, actually an apprenticeship. And I worked with that little company for 3.5 years. And it was incredible. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what I liked. I learned a lot about what I didn't like. I learned a lot about being a woman in a male-dominated industry.
Right.
And it taught me everything. After a while, I thought, I really need to go on with this. So I ended up getting a Bachelor's of Arts in Product Design from Metro, which
Okay.
was an incredible degree in the 80s, and then a Master of Fine Arts from CU. So,
Wow.
I stayed in my field.
Well, and it sounds like at the beginning, lucky you, all the stars aligned, right?
Well, what I always say is opportunity, half of opportunity is knowing that you have it.
Yes.
So opportunity can drop on your head, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that it's there,
Right.
you're not likely to pick up on it. And opening your heart and opening your mind for the opportunity to come in and trusting that it's the right opportunity and maybe risking a few things
Right. Right.
is really how you have to move forward. And that certainly has been the case with this project that I'm
Well,
working
that's
on.
awesome. That
It's
is so
awesome.
great.
It is so great.
I mean, interviewing people and getting their stories, especially women in this business, like you said, it's kind of a male dominated business, is probably just fascinating. I mean, I can't wait to read the book and hear all about it. I mean, and you're doing the exhibition on it and everything. So, but before we get to that,
Okay.
how does jewelry make you feel?
Well, jewelry makes me feel beautiful, powerful. It is a statement on the individual. It is a statement of your availability.
Right.
It is it is a spokesperson for
Yes.
the individual.
Yeah.
And so I feel that when the power of jewelry is with you, it's just an added dimension that gives you the opportunity to maybe stand out a little bit different or a little bit more, maybe a little from the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
your family has history of jewelry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
well, I didn't really know that originally, but
Oh,
after I did the birth search and found out that I have Syrian family members
wow.
and Blackfoot as well.
I
And
love it.
I know I did a bunch of research on both tribes, and they're all jewelry makers.
Oh
And
my
I have a
gosh.
love for jewelry and gems and metalsmithing. Wow, it's inexplicable. But I realized that it was genetic, that it was in my genes, that it was in
Yeah.
my bones. And I was following that passion through generations of time.
That's so amazing, really, that you found your family before internet, before ancestry.com and all of that stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And and you find out that in fact they were jewelry makers. I mean,
Well, genetically, yes. I mean, my immediate family were, they were all business people.
right.
So that made perfect sense because I was also very attuned to business. But the feeling that I got having jewelry, making jewelry, and the power of jewelry was inexplicable until that moment. And then it all came together when I realized that it was in my heritage.
Wow. And so, this has been, I mean, you started at 16, it sounds like, but even younger, loving and just
Mhm.
sort of taking in and breathing all the jewelry you ever came into contact with. But tell us about some of the rough times that you had in this industry. I'm sure you've made mistakes, and I'm sure you had to create solutions. So tell us a little bit about that.
That's funny because today I was in a mental bind and I picked up the most convoluted piece of gold chain, knotted into a million pieces. And I sat there and I wouldn't get up until I resolved it and straightened it out again. So there's an analogy there
Right,
between problem solving and manifesting that on a material level
right,
and intellectually manifesting it in a psychic soul level kind of
right.
dimension. It really so yes, there were a lot of troubles. There was a lot of time. I broke things that were just horrific that
Right.
scared me to death. I made mistakes like that, and how you pull out of that is what speaks about your personality, your fortitude, and your ability to pull out of everything else when things get thrown at you in rough times.
Yeah. Well, you've got Doris Barnes saying, "Hey, Linda, I'm here."
I just found Doris recently. She
Oh,
and I are childhood friends from when
that's
I
so
was about
awesome. And
6 years old.
she's watching. And then Marnie Beardsley, who is a sort of a relative of mine. Thank you for tuning in, Marnie. Gosh, I'd love to interview her as well. And Cheryl Wirtz is on saying,
Oh, how awesome.
yay!
Cheryl was at the birth of all my children,
Oh, I
and that
love
wasn't
it.
always pretty either.
Oh, thanks so much for just tuning in and supporting Linda tonight. It's just really
Oh,
awesome that you're doing that.
it's
And
exciting.
so, how, so you were thrown some different situations throughout your career. How did you get through them? I mean, did you have, I mean, did you have a solution-based problem solving that you just turn to every time? Because I know, I mean, jewelry like is so, to me, when I see jewelry, I'm just so amazed at how intricate it can possibly be by the maker. And so I think that just looks like it takes hours of tedious work. And you do beautiful gems. I mean, I posted some of your gems on my website. They're just gorgeous. So, I
Thank you.
mean, how do you get through those hard times to enjoy what you've actually created?
Well, one of my dear friends, and I hope she's also listening this evening, she says, you have to love jewelry to be sitting there for hours,
Right.
either untangling a piece of chain or trying to put a jump ring on correctly.
Right.
But there's something satisfying about the solution. And there seems to be a very clear pathway. But I've been in various situations that have not always been pleasant. I worked for a couple of guys for several years, and that was rough. I always felt like the underdog. I always felt like I could never be like them. And I really fought to learn more and become the best that I could be,
Right.
more for myself than anybody else. And that way they're becoming an educated, informed artisan can really, that'll put your feet on the ground. That'll
Right.
plant you.
Right.
That'll give you some street cred, so to speak.
Right. Right. What about, what do you see as the future of the book and its purpose? Because you're going to interview 100 women, right?
Yes.
So,
Well, interestingly enough, today I just got news, and basically because I promoted this, and I've been interviewed, a few times
good.
now, and it looks to me like we're going to have a salon in New York City, and nobody knows that yet, so you're the first to know.
Oh my gosh.
And but the future of the book for me is about teaching the next generation what's coming down the pike, what is in our future, and how you do handle it. I am really about problem solving for the next generation of women jewelry makers. And
Wow.
that is a huge, huge population up and coming right now. It's big.
I would think so. Even no matter where I've lived in Thailand, I've lived in Singapore, I've lived in the United States, there are talented people making jewelry. There was a really wonderful gal in Thailand that did metalsmithing, and her jewelry was just incredible. So you're right. I mean, people all over the world are finding, different ways and different means and different ways to get themselves out there, which seems so hard, really, as a jewelry maker, to really market yourself and get yourself out there. It's all about the business side as well, right?
It is. But this is a really rapidly changing industry. So in the day where in the 70s I sat at a bench and tried to hand build everything,
Right.
to today where you build it all on a computer and it gets 3D printed, the industry itself has gone through many incarnations and a
Nice.
lot of evolution in terms of making your dreams come true. In the old days, creating a dragon with clouds underneath the gallery of a ring. Well, good
Right.
luck with that.
Yeah.
Today, you can do that and put a pirate on top of him. And so the capabilities are really vast at this point. And takes a lot to stay on top of that industry.
Yeah,
It
I'm
takes a
sure it
lot.
does.
You can't drop the ball on that.
How is this book going to be different than the text written about jewelry? Okay, because there's probably so many books written. Why, how is your book and what you're doing going to be different?
Well, I've had to really go deep into the contemplation of that.
Yeah,
And I wrote to all my artists today because I wanted them to know there are a lot of texts out there about jewelry and jewelry making and women and men in the jewelry industry.
right.
However, it seems to me, over a vast overview of all of that material, it's always focused on how many carats is the diamond and, how much is the gold worth. And, it always seems to be focused on the piece.
Right.
And I might have gone into this project thinking that, but in the end, as I develop this, and every woman that I interview, the treasure is the artist. She's the one that manifests the piece. And so I've done a spin on it. I have seen a lot of jewelry, I must say, in 48 years, and
I'm sure. Yes.
and the most recently, because all these artists have buffet tables of jewelry waiting for me to look at. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
And I handle and touch every piece, and I really get a sense of who that artist is and what it is that they want to communicate with that piece. The piece of jewelry is a vehicle. It's a manifestation. But the true treasure is the woman who makes it, who conceives of it, who won't take no for an answer, who gets out there and gets that job done no matter what, and makes her statement and her presence known through a piece of jewelry that could literally be here for thousands of years.
Right.
That's a big job.
That's a big job.
That's a big job.
So
very important.
So it's about the jewelry, but it's really about the individual and their creativity and their story. And to me, I don't know. I will read a book that focuses on that person's story more than that how many carats they're using. And so I think it's a brilliant idea. Brilliant.
Thank you. I took a leap of faith because I kept thinking to myself, I can't be the only woman out here just, slugging it out the way that I'm doing. And the common denominators that I consistently find throughout the stories, many women started this by having to stay at home with children, and it was a way to make money there. Right. Some women wanted it to be, some women it's generational. I've spoken to women that their families made jewelry in Italy. And so there's a reason for everything. Yeah. And in the jewelry world. And it's just how that piece speaks about the person that eventually came to make it. It's a powerful medium.
That is very powerful. It really is. It is powerful media. So, show me a vision of the book and the exhibit and where you see these events and publications, happening.
Well, I have originally envisioned the book as a coffee table book. Yeah. And so the photographs are done by Hardy Clahold, and they are absolutely incredible.
Oh, I'm sure.
You're amazing.
Yes.
And then I write a little blurb about what it's like to meet them. And this is a bit messy. It's like, okay, it's pouring rain, and I spent an hour trying to get ready. Right. And now I walk in looking like a drowned rat, trying to be, presentable. And so, there's all these cute little stories about, going up to the building. And so I introduced you to the artist in the way that I am introduced to the artist.
Right.
I am literally meeting total strangers
Right.
and going to their homes
Right.
and trying to behave and, make everything right.
Right.
And so I write a little blurb about that. Then I ask the artist to submit their work professionally photographed. We tried doing that. Forget about it. It's too hard. So they choose the pieces that they want, and they're all dropped out, white background and everything. And then the edited interview talks about not only how they started, but also how they, got through some of the tough times and how being a woman in the industry has helped them. And I've gotten everything from it was heck on wheels to actually it was a great benefit. So I'm not putting that cast on it.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is I'm just asking. I'm the investigator. I'm the author. I'm finding these things out so that the reader can find them out for themselves.
I love that. I really do, Linda. I think that's just such a beautiful way to highlight individuality in jewelry making. And also just putting those stories out beyond the jewelry, I mean, I love that. So tell me about how has being a woman affected you in this industry, both as an author now and as a designer?
As a jewelry designer, I found that because it is a technical industry, that I did have some struggles. I had, I guess, low self-esteem. I felt like I wasn't as good as the guys. I wasn't trained to do that type of thing. And so I felt always the odd person out. And in the old days, when you polished cast pieces, you came out of that back room looking like a coal miner. And that wasn't very glamorous.
Right.
And a lot of people, and particularly women, felt that was a great thing. However, I sort of loved it, and I love the hands-on approach. I don't have to do that anymore, thank goodness.
Right.
But it taught me a lot. So being a woman in the industry for myself motivated me to be better because it was a huge rocket booster that I was not going to be the underdog, and I wasn't going to be incapable of doing something just because I was a woman. But I'm a fighter, and I think most of these women are there. And not fighting in a bad way, fighting to stay on top of the industry, fighting to keep going.
And never giving up, Linda.
And
never given up.
That's right.
Never given up. And I love that about you. You just, you don't even take no for an answer.
I can't say that I haven't thought about it. But, that's how the book came about.
Right.
Because I realized the book was my hallmark in the world of jewelry.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily a piece of jewelry. It was the book. And then I could carry forward so many other people with me, and not just with my own work, but to highlight and showcase everyone else's work. It felt very right to me. It's a very comfortable place to be. Nice place to be.
I think that's
Didn't have to be about me.
Yeah. No, right. I mean, but we're an extension of each other anyway, right? So it's really all that we give and all that we receive in that act, it all comes around and comes back. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing in this situation as well. So what is your message to those who are reading your book and wearing your jewelry?
When you're reading my book, I'm highlighting someone else because I keep telling everyone, my work is not going to be in the book. This isn't about me.
Right.
So I love the fact that I'm just highlighting other people. When you wear a piece of my work, everything I have goes into it. And when I slide that ring on your finger and it is perfect, I make them laugh and say, well, I can sleep. Because there's a lot that goes from here to here.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Wow is right. I can sleep tonight.
I can sleep tonight.
Would be my words too. I mean, that's just such an awesome feeling to have that ending piece fit and be beautiful and the look in someone's eyes. I mean,
And the other thing that I tell them, Kathy, and this really gets them, I said, you know, all in all, I'm not making this for you. I'm making this for your great grandchildren.
yeah. Isn't that the truth?
It
Isn't
is
that the truth?
because
Yep.
when you open a box and you see your great grandmother's piece of jewelry and you put it in your hand, everything about her comes back through that piece.
Yeah, that's right. It's true. I have some of my grandmother's jewelry and some of my aunt's jewelry, and I don't wear it, but I have it in a special place. And when I look at it, I remember seeing it on my grandma. I remember my aunt wearing those rings. I just remember the interaction and the memories of those times. And I think that is, I mean, jewelry is one of those really wonderful ways to relive that, you know. So that's
One of the artists said to me, jewelry is the sparkle in your mother's eyes.
oh my gosh. That's beautiful. It's
She's a
beautiful.
beautiful artist. They're
That's
all
just,
beautiful artists.
that's just
Artists, I
beautiful.
love you. I love the artists.
Yeah. We love you out
Yeah,
there.
we
And we're
love you.
so excited that you're going to be interviewed by Linda, and you couldn't be in better hands. I can tell you this right now. So
Thank you.
tell us what the future looks like for all designers and some suggestions before we go to the next generation of designers.
Well, I think education is key. I think developing product in a void can be very dangerous. It is a very contemplative act. It is a very deeply personal act.
Yeah.
But you can't make a butterfly pin and think you just created the world. You have to realize, how are you going to make that different? How are you going
Right.
to solve the problems of the future? And how are you going to be a leader in this industry? And the other thing that I ask a lot of people apprentice with me. I teach
Yeah, I
young women,
bet.
and, I try to get that. How are you going to pass it on? Don't hold it. Pass it on, because just like that piece of jewelry, it goes on forever. And so you've got to be able to pass that on. And that's what we're doing here. We're
Yeah.
thinking of not only ourselves, not only our heritage and our ancestry, but of our children and of our grandchildren and the future that holds for them.
Yeah, because in the world that we live in now, where, we have the internet, we have social media, we have all those things, there's less interaction, there's less connection at times, even though we think that we're getting so much through those avenues. Whereas sitting down and having a cup of coffee with somebody, or sitting down and passing on a piece of jewelry to somebody else, you can't get that on social media. You can't get that in an email. You know, there's just those certain things that need to be carried on.
I call that theory versus practice,
Yeah,
because theory is having the conversation,
right.
but practice is holding your mother's wedding ring.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I just have so enjoyed being with you tonight. I
Thank you.
really have. And
Me
you're
too. This is
such
a
an
ball.
amazing, you're such an amazing woman. I mean,
Well,
and I
ditto.
love what you're doing. Anytime someone's interviewing others for stories, I just get so excited, because I think that's what connects us all is our stories and what we've done and how we've done it and how we've, toiled and laughed and cried and all the things that you speak about. So if someone wants to connect with you, Linda, how could they do that?
Well, you can always follow me,
Okay.
please, on Women of Jewelry Instagram,
Yes.
because I'm really developing that as my platform
Great.
to discuss the stories, the jewelry pieces, and the artists. So
Yeah.
we're showing the images and the jewelry. And to me, that's the best place to connect. But you're
Perfect.
always welcome to contact me at linda@christinemarguerite.com. I will answer all emails, or hello@womenofjewelry.com.
Okay.
And that's my email for the Women of Jewelry book. And I am looking for suggestions, and I am making sure that I have a wonderful diversity of artists
Nice.
and a spectrum of women in this industry. So bring it on. Show me who you
Yeah.
got.
I have some suggestions I'll give you
Yeah, I want to
after
know
we
about the
say
lady in Thailand.
yeah, after we say goodbye, because I think that you would really, yeah, I have a couple of suggestions. So again, if any of you out there have suggestions about women in jewelry that you think might be interesting for Linda to interview and be a part of this project, please contact her, because again, she wants to have a diverse group of women and just be able to show and highlight and rejoice in what these women have done in their jewelry making lives. And I just think it's fantastic.
I told all the women today, you just wait when we get all 100 women under one roof in a museum exhibition. Look out. That's
Look
what I'm
out.
saying. Look
Look
out.
out. That's right.
What a powerhouse.
That's going to be
Absolutely.
phenomenal.
That'll
Also,
be my coup de grace.
yeah, I'll serve drinks for you there.
Woo!
Um, I'll do anything just to mingle with you all. So thank you so much again, Linda, for
Thank
being
you.
here. I so appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in and supporting What's Your Story Radio. It means the world to me. And I'm so grateful that you got a chance to hear Linda and her project and what she's doing. Connect with her. I'm telling you, connect with her on other levels. She's been in business. She's doing this project. I'm sure that you will all be able to find a common denominator there. So thank you again. And I really want to say thank you, everyone, for being here and being a part of What's Your Story. Make it a great week.